Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Zscaler from ZK Research, and I'm here in Melbourne at Zscaler's Zenith Live event for the APJ region. I'm with Natalie Legg, CEO of A23, award-winning A23. You won the Zscaler Growth Partner of the Year award for the region. Natalie, glad to have you. A bit of an intro on you and A23 and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So Natalie, I'm the CEO of A23. I'm also one of the founders. We're a company born out of Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. Many people think it's Sydney. It is not. No. And we were really born out of providing services to government, and that is still our bread and butter. We service a lot of high value customers that do nation building stuff. And as we know, that's really important to secure that more than probably anything else. We do a lot of services and we do some product. We've actually been really long partners of Zscaler. I like to call them Zeddy because I'm Australian. Yeah. We like to shorten and then
I'm Canadian, so I grew up with Zed.
Exactly. So. So we've been partners since I think 2018. So we've definitely seen Zedscaler, grow. I think we punch above our weight as a partner, and I think Zedscaler has as well from the start. I remember them. We went to a Zenith a few years ago where we were talking about hitting 1 billion, and today they were talking about 3 billion. It's just amazing, and it's awesome to see.
And how long have you been in business?
About 9 years.
9 years, okay. And you've been a partner there for 3 years then?
Sorry?
And how long have you been a partner?
Yeah, since 2018. Okay. So very early on, they were one of our first big partners. Yeah.
So what's interesting about, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Zedscaler does bring quite a different approach to security. Right? When you think of how most companies secure their organizations, it's traditional, castle and moat, put up my firewalls, things like that. They've always espoused doing something different. And so how's within this region, how are customers getting on with that whole concept? Are they tending to buy into it more? Is cloud acted as a driver? Just where are we in that transition here?
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely a technology that initially took a bit more explaining, a little bit more to get people's heads around.
And a leap of faith.
I think for us, because we're very much a technologist-led company with some really big brains, that fell into our sweet spot, that ability to talk to what it's all about. Played in our favour, I think. I feel like it's that old story of a long time overnight success, because we've been working on this for a long time, but it really feels like it's starting to come to fruition. Lots more deals coming through, lots more of customers coming to us and to our partners, Westcon and Zscaler, around this stuff. Whereas it used to, I think, take a bit more training and effort. But we're seeing a lot of change and a lot of focus. Yeah,
it's one of those interesting leap of faith things. I was talking with one of their US customers, insurance company, that eventually did get rid of all their firewalls and go zero trust everywhere. And I said, did that scare you? He goes, it scared the crap out of me. But he also knew it was the right thing to do. And I think cyber's interesting because we live off this, if it ain't fixed, don't. If it ain't broke, don't
fix it.
Yeah. And so doing something different. Now, I've always believed, though, that these market transitions happen when technology transitions. And so when you think about what Zscaler was born because of cloud, so if I'm moving all my apps to the cloud, then perimeter security doesn't really do me any good anymore, does it? So now we've got this big thing happening called AI. Are you finding that is causing customers to rethink their security strategies?
I think given that our customers are predominantly government and also Australia, which we're lagging a little bit behind the rest of the world when it comes to that conversation, maybe we're a little bit pre that, but everyone is talking about it, right? And it is moving rapidly. So I think for us and our customer base predominantly, it's AI and it's cyber, but it's also really like governance around that, ethics and privacy and, who owns the sovereign data and who owns it and who owns the models, and all those conversations are really important. When you talk about citizen data, it's an even more complex space. But of course, complexity is opportunity, and, it's really exciting.
Yeah, well, and so it is because of that data, though, that I think the concept of zero trust should be more well understood, because if I'm worrying about protecting customers, in fact, if you think about some of the big breaches we've seen globally or even in the region, if they had actually had zero trust everywhere, maybe those breaches wouldn't happen.
Hindsight's 2020.
Now, one of the concepts brought up on stage was this concept of the trust gap. Right, and you mentioned the growth of data. Right, clearly, my research seeing that. I think 50, 60% of data growth now is machine generated. So,
exactly. Data creating data.
Yes. And I think that's just going to continue to get worse. We've got more connected things. We've got more people working in more places.
Yep.
And so your thoughts on the concept of the trust gap and how you help customers walk through closing that?
Look, I think that when it comes down to it, look, I'm not the technical expert on these sort of things. I have them and they work for me. But I think like anything, you have to know your shit. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to know and you have to have no bullshit approach. You have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You have to be honest about the limitations, the risks, the opportunities. And sometimes people don't really want to hear the truth about their own environment, right? So there's always a little bit of finesse and diplomacy in there as well.
Yeah. All right. Now, as I mentioned, you just won today award for Growth Partner of the Year. How is the relationship with Zscaler, and how do you two work together to help customers be able to achieve their security goals?
Sure. I mean, look, I think it is a partnership born of like quite a few years now of partnership. So we've seen, in the early days of working, we worked directly together. There wasn't a disty in the middle. There wasn't even really partner management. It was very much just working direct. Yeah. And then it's been really great to see it mature and evolve, but they've done it in a way where it's pretty consultative and it all kind of makes sense. We work in a lot of ways, sometimes we've got a really strong relationship with all of our customers, and sometimes we're the ones bringing Zscaler into the conversation. Sometimes it's the other way around, and sometimes deals come from, places you wouldn't have thought, and you just jump on it and take the opportunity, right? I think, again, it all comes down to being honest and transparent and, being open about where there's an opportunity, who's got the opportunity, what we think the limit is, how far we think you could push all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you've been working with this since 2018, they were pre-IPO. They barely had a footprint in APJ at the time. Yeah. Why did you work with them in the first place?
I was trying to think about this, actually. I don't know how the first conversation I remember the first meeting we had in Canberra was with Gareth Davies back in the day, and that was before there was a single Canberra-based employee. But I just can't remember where the initial connection was. Everything's networks, right? Somebody worked with someone at some point that went somewhere, but I can't remember how it started. But I think, again, given that our company started by a bunch of techos, right? So the quality of the tech, and I think that's one of the things that resonated throughout today is, it does always come back to, is the tech good? Is it best of breed? And it is. And I think that was what sold everybody. Like, you can't get a bunch of techos to sell something that doesn't work well. You can get salesmen to do it.
Yes,
but you can't get techos to do it. That's true.
And if you were a bunch of techos, I guess that's a testament to it. And you don't have to name a customer here, but can you give me an example of a customer, maybe just industry vertical, size, and the approach you took to be able to jointly solve their problems?
Yeah, so we've done a few big deployments with large, like, government, Fed gov and state government agencies, and it's like any other place, right? Understand the user base, understand the risks, understand their motivations, understand the use cases, have a really good plan in place and really good people to deploy it. In some circumstances, the most controversial and difficult part is the most senior stakeholders and their risk appetite. In other ones, it's actually the user base and their particular concerns. We had a customer where their concern was, don't, whatever you do, block their access to gambling sites because they'll strike.
That's an interesting...
It's a very interesting particular, but I won't say much more or you'll be able to work it out. But and then other ones where it really... that the biggest challenge is to get them to sign off on deploying because they're a bit afraid. Everyone has their challenges. Yeah. But some really good, big, successful deployments that now it's just a part of the furniture, right?
Yeah. And I know when we were prepping for this, you mentioned that managed services is becoming a good growth engine for you. And I've noticed that not just in this region, but really around the world, I'm seeing a rise in interest in managed services. Now, a lot of that's driven just from more complexity. Yeah. And I'm curious as to how you're seeing the growth of managed services and what's driving that.
Yeah. So I think in our customer base, there's a lot of downward pressure on budgets for IT, right?
Yes.
And I think, and there's also like, it's so much more complex. So customers can't afford to have, an expert in Zscaler and a Windows guy and an Azure guy and a Google guy. Like, they can't. So dealing with experts in that field that maybe they only need a couple of days a month to keep their, to feed and water something, but they need to have some expertise. That's where we've found some success. It's not always about the big wholesale, we'll manage everything for you. Sometimes it's just about filling gaps around certain products or certain places. And that also keeps us engaged, right?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that makes it easier, and curious your thoughts on the concept of platformization. I don't really believe anybody will go to one security vendor.
No.
But I do think that there's less and less appetite for running 50 security vendors, 100 security vendors. And you seen similar?
Yeah, we are. But I mean, all that stuff's sort of cyclical as well, right? Like, I think if you've been around long enough, then, people do tend to end up sort of liking one part of a platform, and you can build out on that. But then sometimes it only takes one change of leadership and it can come back. But I think that as long as your product offering is solid, and I think that's what we've seen from Zedscaler, they're not just tacking on extra bits that don't quite fit.
Yeah.
I think everything that's been introduced seems to have the same level of quality. It's congruent with the story of what they're doing, and I think that that's successful. Certainly, those upsells, once you start with something, has been successful, I think. For us, a lot of our customers have full E5 Microsoft licensing, so that's usually the integration that you've got to work out for us.
And then everything's free, kind of.
Well, I mean, there you go, isn't it? Just put it in a different column and it's free.
And so from a leadership perspective, obviously AI is a big buzzword. How are you thinking about using AI to even change your own business and the way you deal with customers?
That's a really funny one. I've been to a few different events over the last couple of weeks, and that's the story. How I'm approaching it is putting the mandate to my guys that we need to be, sometimes you feel like you're the plumber with the leaky pipes, right? Like, you're running an IT company, you're innovative for your customers, and then you're not being innovative behind the scenes. I've requested an AI factory today from my guys. I don't even know what it is, but I want one. They're going to get me one. But look, I think that it's moving rapidly, and if we don't start to leverage all of that kind of capability, we'll get left behind. And also in Australia in particular, there's so few, like, it is so hard to find talent, like, to try to recruit people and all that. If you can even just get a little bit of efficiency or economy from, from using tools instead of people, it can't hurt.
Well, this is the fascinating conversation with AI. Everybody talks about it taking people's jobs.
Yeah.
But in the world of cyber, there's no company I talk to that can hire enough people.
No.
Right? So if AI can just be used to close...
Like, take my job. Please, do it. Do it all.
But if it can be used to close that skills gap, I mean, that's a big win, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, All right. Just, one last question for people watching this. If they're going through the process of rethinking their security strategy right now, a couple pieces of advice. What should they be keeping their eye
on? I think you should go to A23.com.au and reach out to us. No, look, I think that you should...
That's no joke. The services companies can play a big role in helping them cut through all the...
I think, absolutely. Look, I think you need to know your business. You need to be honest about what people are doing in your environment, what your actual risks are. And I think leverage people who are experts.
Yeah. All right. So from the mouth of Natalie Legg from A23, no BS.
No BS,
and know what you're talking about. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. Yep.
All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
So
it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, so on behalf of Natalie, I'm Zscaler from ZK Research, saying thanks for watching. Give us a like and also hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time on my next episode of ZKast, or Zcast in this movie.
Yeah.